Hey everyone. So in this video, I like to look at Mathematica's commands for trigonometric functions, and I like to evaluate these commands, or these functions, in both radians and degrees. So I've listed out the different commands here. Notice that as usual with Mathematica commands, the first character is capitalized, and the input for these different trigonometric functions, they're wrapped in square brackets. Now when we look at the inverse trigonometric functions, they're expressed as arcsine, arccosine, and arctangent. And not only is that first character capitalized, but actually S for sine, C for cosine, and T for tangent are capitalized as well. So let's look into evaluating some of these functions at different angles. And let's start with radians. And so many radians that we're familiar with, many of the common examples we evaluate trigonometric functions at, they're expressed in terms of pi. And so let's look at how we can enter pi into Mathematica. So Mathematica lets us type in special characters by pressing the escape key. So here, if I press the escape key, I get these 3 dashes. And if I follow that up with the character p, I get a list of all the different special characters Mathematica can enter that start with the letter P. And here at the very top of this list says that pi is associated with P in the special characters list. So here, if I end my special characters list by pressing escape again, I will get the pi character. So all that means is that if I press escape, P escape, I will get the pi character in Mathematica. So now let's use this to evaluate trigonometric functions at angles in radians. Let's start with sine of 5 pi over 3. So 5, escape, p, escape for pi, and then I'm going to divide this by 3. This gives us negative square root of 3 over 2. So let's evaluate another trigonometric function. Let's do secant. And this time let's look at secant of pi over 2. So I'm going to press escape, p escape for pi. I'm going to divide this by 2. And when I enter this into Mathematica, it returns complex infinity. Now you might remember that cosine, its reciprocal trigonometric function is secant. And so secant of pi over 2, that's really 1 over cosine of pi over 2. Well, cosine of pi over 2 is 0. And so 1 over cosine of pi over 2 is 1 over 0. 1 over 0 is undefined. And so this is Mathematica's way of saying undefined in maybe a little bit more specific way that is useful in different contexts, but maybe not so much here. So here, let's just interpret this as implying undefined as a result for secant of pi over 2. So next I like to look at inputting degrees into trigonometric functions, angles expressed in degrees, and we accomplish that again with our special characters. So here I press escape, and instead of pressing P, I'm going to type in D, E, G. So here I can see that D, E, G corresponds to our degree symbol when I start with escape. I start by pressing escape, and then I accept this special character by pressing escape again. So escape, DEG escape, gives me this degree symbol. And so if I want to enter a degree, an angle in degrees into a trigonometric function, let's say our tangent function, I would type in maybe just as a concrete example, 150, escape, DEG for degrees, and then escape again to really accept that degree character. And now I press Shift-Enter to run this command, and I get negative 1 over the square root of 3. So now let's look at our inverse trigonometric functions. Let's do 2 examples of those. So remember that inverse trig functions reverse the roles of the inputs and outputs of the original trig functions. So for trig functions, I'm not going to type in an enter or a degree as the input. I'm going to type in something like the square root of 3 over 2 or 1/2, something that's the output or result of a trigonometric function. And so here I might type in arc cosine of negative square root of 3 over 2. Right, that's a common result from a trigonometric function, specifically cosine. And so arc cosine of this is going to tell us what's an angle that produces this output through the cosine function. And specifically, arc cosine gives us back angles between 0 and pi, or 0 and 180 degrees. And so here we get 5 pi over 6. This is the angle in radians that cosine takes to negative square root of 3 over 2. And here let's do another example. Let's do arc sine. And here I want to make sure I capitalize that s character in sine when we're dealing with these inverse trig functions. And here I'm going to type in the same thing, negative square root of 3 over 2. And arc sine is going to do the same thing. It's going to give us back an angle which sine takes to negative square root of 3 over 2. But here, there are many angles that do that job. This arc sine function is only going to give us back the angle between negative pi over 2 and pi over 2, or in degrees, negative 90 degrees to positive 90 degrees. So if I run this command, here I get negative pi over 3, or negative 60 degrees.